They're hugging the wall right now.
Yep. Got one.
Who's in the road? Who's in the road?
Nobody. Them.
Oh, I wish I... that? I killed 2 other players. Just letting y'all know.
So there's 2 left.
Yeah, I'm down on the road.
Hello and welcome to my 3rd weapon guide for Escape from Tarkov. My name is Freakatoid, and today we will be going over the ADAR 215 and the TX-15 DML. This will be a prime example of function versus form, and with that, we'll hop right into it. Damage for the ADAR and TX-15 is a complicated subject. With so many ammo varieties in the 5.56 category, it becomes a take-your-pick chart. You have rounds like HP and Warmageddon, which crank up the flesh damage as high as possible with little armor penetration. M855 and M856A1, which like to hold a balance of good damage and penetrate medium armor, and M995 and AP rounds, which strictly want to ignore armor with reduced overall damage. The disparity in all of these numbers makes it really hard to pin just one class of damage. Luckily, you can one-shot any PMC to the head with any of these rounds if it's not resisted by armor. Usually, I would compare the Ergo and Weight of these weapons only by how they come from traders. But since you can make these weapons in pretty much any form that you'd like, I will also add a direct comparison with both of these weapons having the ADAR attachments. For starters, you can purchase a base ADAR with an Ergo of 60, weighing 2.907 kilograms. The TX-15 from Skier comes stock with an Ergo of 34 and a weight of 3.322 kilograms. Because you can customize these weapons exactly the same way, the TX-15 with ADAR attachments holds an Ergo of 62 with a weight of 2.817 kilograms. This insinuates that the TX-15 will have a greater Ergo and lighter weight in any direct comparison with the ADAR. The rate of fire between the ADAR and the TX-15 is identical, having a possible 800 RPM. You will more than likely never reach this RPM, but in turn, you will never feel like the gun stutters on you. In most situations, you can't always rely on hitting perfect headshots, so it becomes necessary to control the weapon when firing fast. By strict comparison, the ADAR suffers greater recoil and slower recoil recovery than the TX-15 in general. Regardless, you can easily control the vertical kick of these guns by pulling down slightly as you fire away. The accuracy of these 2 weapons are extremely reliant on the barrel that is used for them. You can go for the lowest MOA value possible of 1.05 on the ADAR or 1.04 on the TX-15 with the 20-inch barrel, or sacrifice long-range accuracy for reduced weapon weight with the 206mm barrel, granting an MOA of 2.53 for the ADAR and 2.19 for the TX-15 on a base level. If you prefer something in between, you have 3 other barrel options to pick your balance. The same logic is applied to the weapon's bullet velocity, albeit a much less severe change. With the 20-inch barrel, the bullet velocity reaches an average of 907 meters per second on the ADAR and 942 meters per second on the TX-15 at the higher end, with the lower end 206mm barrel lowering the average to 772 meters per second on the ADAR and 801 meters per second on the TX-15. Again, the TX-15 will have greater stats than the ADAR. The ADAR is one of the most abundant weapons you will find in Tarkov. Scavs often wield it, and Skier sells the functional ADAR piece at loyalty level 1. You can even use a trick to repair any Scav ADAR to max durability. Just purchase the single slot, bare bones AR that he sells for about 14,000 rubles. Disassemble any Scav ADAR you find, then reassemble the parts to the new piece you just bought. You now have a fully repaired ADAR ready to go. The TX-15 is much harder to come by. For starters, it's simply much more expensive through traders. Once you unlock the flea market, you may find that people pull apart the attachments on it to sell separately and still charge around 80 to 100k rubles for it. The reason for this is that the suppressor and the stock it comes standard with are highly sought after attachments for meta builds. There is a barter through mechanic for a much different build of the TX-15 that costs 2 GP coins and 2 pressure gauges, but the GP coins are better spent on other trades. Apart from flea market and barter trading, Skier will sell the TX-15 for about 210,000 rubles at loyalty level 3 after completing Gunsmith Part 16. Like I said in the damage section, you can really find whatever you are looking for in the 5.56 ammo type. Need flesh damage? Warmageddon hurts a lot. Need to get past armor? M995 slips right through. Want something in between? How about M855, M856, and the A1 versions? There's so much to consider when you're determining which is a better fit for you. So instead of going over each and every round, I will go over the ammo types I just mentioned and how to get them. Warmageddon is for people that hate working limbs. With a flesh damage of 88, this ammo can take out any unprotected limb in one shot. The key word, however, is unprotected. Having literally any armor on will prevent any covered body part from taking damage on a direct hit. M995 is a bullet on the opposite spectrum of damage, wielding a penetration power of 53. Literally only level 6 armor will hold it back for a few shots. The trade-off with this round is that it can only one-shot to the head. The ammo is also only obtained through crafting or by finding it on boss scavs. The popular rounds for 5.56 lie in between these extremes. These rounds are M855, M856, M855A1, and M856A1. All of these rounds can be purchased eventually by Peacekeeper and offer the best balance of armor penetration to flesh damage. What really makes these rounds special is their abundance. For such well-performing ammo, you won't find any lack of them on enemies. The ADAR and TX-15 have a seemingly endless amount of configurations you can make. Want speed above all? Build a light weapon with short barrels and maximum ergo. Want to bring out that range as much as possible? Slap on the biggest barrel you can with the right amount of recoil reduction to make your precision unmatched. Do you hate reloading? You have 100 reasons to. Do you hate things being in a general spot on the map? Throw a grenade launcher on that and send her! There are so many different combinations to attachments that the ADAR and TX-15 can have that I would physically lose the willpower to continue trying to cover it all only a fraction of the way in. All you really need to know is, whether you are building something cheap, meta, or anything in between, you have plenty of choices. Except that front sight gas block. That. Now, obviously, you are thinking, what's the meta? I want to make sure I have the best ADAR or TX-15 possible. Well, here's a little secret. There really isn't one for these weapons. Sure, you could put as much recoil control on this weapon as possible to make faster firing more controllable, or as much ergo as possible to make the weapon faster to maneuver. But the best way to kit these weapons up is purely how it best fits you. In the end, these weapons will lose out in close range fights to somebody wielding a full auto weapon with decent aim more often than not. Part of the charm in these weapons is that the performance is quite similar despite how much extra money you pour into it. This makes it easier to go wild on customizing for looks or being extremely cheap. To make a long explanation short, you are rewarded for having precision and skill, not overpriced builds. Alright, time for the final comparison between the ADAR 215 and the TX-15 DML. The ADAR is a semi-automatic version of the M4 that can be found often on scavs and offers a variety of customization. The main selling point of this weapon is how incredibly cheap it is, but it certainly doesn't offer any distinct advantages over other weapons in its family. Its adaptable ammo does make it able to fit anyone's preferred method of fighting. There isn't any particular bad trait of this weapon, other than that its forced semi-auto function holds it back in close-range fights. Stats are slightly lacking, but it still holds up well across the board. Overall, the ADAR is a solid weapon, but not remarkable in any particular situation. The TX-15 is a direct upgrade over the ADAR, offering improved stats in every category. It offers an ease of use over the ADAR, even when matching the same exact components. The downside to this is that it is a little bit more expensive to buy, and is still locked to the semi-auto function, meaning it suffers the same close-range weakness to a lesser degree. It's a shiny, yet arguably unnecessary investment for a slight improvement in performance. The ADAR is an abundant weapon that shows no particular strengths over the other weapons you may find. This does not mean it's useless. It acts more like a reliable underdog, waiting to show you just how much potential you have as a player. It rewards well-placed shots as much as the next weapon, with a small price tag to suit. And for those who wish to take this to the extreme, the TX-15 offers the same experience in a masterful package of improvements. I hope you enjoyed the video, and perhaps learned something new. Be sure to subscribe.